Good morning all. Today we're going to run that Infranor Servo drive on that Moog Servo motor. Now the drive's model number is SMT-BD1/1A 220/17-w-big T-big BS. Phew, that's a mouthful right there. Now the drive takes 220 volts AC 3-phase to bring up the DC bus to power the motor. And then down here, you can't see it, but I'll take some pictures. There's a 4-pin Phoenix connector where you apply 220 volts AC single phase to power up the control of the drive. This connector right here, U, V, and W, are the output to the motor. And here I have a homemade, actually those wires are homemade too. I have a homemade feedback connector for the resolver, excitation, and sine cosine of the servo drive. Here is my enable switch and my speed reference potentiometer. That's a 5 kilo ohm potentiometer right there. And that goes into this DB25 connector. I'll give you all the hookups at the end of the video. We'll talk about those. Back here you can't see it, but there's a plus and minus 10 volt DC power supply for the wings of the speed reference potentiometer. I've got it set to plus and minus 6 instead of plus and minus 10. It still works. Let's power up that power supply back there, and we'll apply 220 volts AC to the drive. Alright, we have no alarm LEDs, and we have a green on LED. That's good. I got a piece of tape right here so you can see the motor rotate, but we'll get closer in a little bit. Let's go ahead and enable that drive. Look at that. We're running. With the speed potentiometer, we'll go a little bit faster. We can also go the other way. Let's get closer to all this, and you can get a good look at how it's operating. I don't want to jerk it around too hard because I don't have the regenerative braking resistor attached to this drive. Don't want to blow out those bus capacitors in this drive, because right now it's working. I don't want to tear it up. So I go slowly in one direction and slowly in the other. The complaint on this drive was that the I2T LED was turning on immediately when you applied power to this drive, but I'm not seeing that here. This drive has no alarms. It's running a motor. Here's what the LEDs look like when we power up the drive. Now there's no alarm LEDs on. There's a chart right here on the front panel that indicate the alarms depending on the pattern of the turned on LEDs. But they're all off, so there's no alarm. I'll show you what alarm we get if we disconnect the resolver. That's the resolver alarm. Reset the drive by cycling power. There we go, no alarms. What do you know? I don't see any problem with this drive. Alright, I'll get back to the house. We'll discuss the hookups to make your Infranor Servo drive run. Alright, here we are at the house. It's a nice sunny day out. Birds are on the bird feeders, filling up their bellies. I'm gonna have to go in the backyard here shortly and water the chives and the basil before they dry out in that sunshine. Let's talk about our hookups for that Infranor Servo drive. This is the DB25 connector, X4. Here on pin 1, we have N-limit plus. On 14, we have N-limit minus. And those are connected to pin 21 plus 15 volts DC out. So, normally, in a machine, these would be switch inputs, normally closed, so that when the motor is running clockwise or counterclockwise, when it hits that limit switch, the motor stops, because this input right here would be opened up, or this input right here would be opened up by that clockwise or counterclockwise limit switch. Here we have an external power supply providing plus and minus 10 volts DC and ground. On pin 15 and 17, I have them tied together and going to ground. That pin 15 is 0 volt CV. Pin 17 is CV plus. Now CV minus is connected to a 5 kilo ohm potentiometer, the wiper, whose wings are connected to that external power supply. Now when we raise pin 16 positive by rotating that potentiometer up towards the plus 10 volts DC, that servo motor runs clockwise. And when we lower that 5 kilo ohm potentiometer towards negative 10 volts DC, that servo motor runs counterclockwise. To enable that servo motor to run, we tie pin 20 with this switch right here, pin 20 being enable. We close this switch to pin 21 plus 15 volts DC. And that right there is all you need to get that servo motor to get up and go. Let's look at the second page. Here are the power connections. Now, oh, don't pull off now. Over here, U, V, and W connect to U, V, and W of that Moog Servo motor. Here is L1, L2, and L3. They make the DC bus so that we can run that motor right there. And here on 1, 2, 3, and 4 of this Phoenix connector are the control voltage input to power up that control. Now be very careful right here, because 1 and 4 are connected together on that back plane, and 2 and 3 are connected together on that back plane. These connections right here go to a bridge rectifier inside that back plane. So I connected L1 to pin 2 and L2 to pin 4. Now L1, L2, L3, and these connections right here are 220 volts AC in. 3-phase up here and single phase down here. Here's the feedback connector. The DB9F connector X1 on the Infranor Servo drive, and here is the military connector on the Moog Servo motor. Pin 5 being plus ref, pin 9 being minus ref. Plus ref goes to pin 7, minus ref goes to pin 8 on the Moog Servo motor. Plus sign, minus sign on 4 and 8 of the X1 connector goes to 3 and 4 of the Moog Servo motor. Plus cosine, minus cosine, 3 and 7 go to pin 1 and 2 of the Moog Servo motor. Now on the motor thermal, pins 1 and 2, I jump those out. This is the view of the pins of the servo motor. Now pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And on this motor, we're looking into the pins of that connector, that power connector on that servo motor. Pin 1 is U, pin 4 is V, pin 2 is W, and pin 3 is frame ground of that motor. Pins 5 and 6 are not used. There we go. That's everything you need to know to get that Infranor Servo drive to run that Moog Servo motor. Wasn't that fascinating? Wasn't that fascinating? What a fascinating test that was. I really enjoyed that, and I hope y'all did too. Now let's go in the backyard and we'll water those chives and those basil so they don't dry up in that sunshine back there. Thank you very much all for coming by and seeing what we're doing, seeing what we're working on next, and enjoy your life, because life gets hard every now and then, but enjoy your life. I want you to have a good life. And if sometimes when things get hard, fall back on your friends, fall back on your family. They'll help you out. I know many times I've done that. Well, there we go. Enough of that. Let's get on out of here.